Hello.
How are you?
I'm well. I'm just going to try to help you see me somehow. Ha! That's
There
better.
you are.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Very, very much. Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Um, well, here we are. I know the questions you're going to ask, but maybe you feel like asking a different one. So I'll leave it up to you to begin.
Yeah. So, what has seeking got you into?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I would say gradual clarity.
Okay.
So yes,
How
gradual.
long? How long has it
Oh,
been?
you know what I was thinking about? I actually thought what's happened to me is that I wanted to totally negate that I was a seeker.
Yeah.
Totally, totally, totally. And I kind of wrestled with that for, a while. Like I would say even, I've been listening to you in other ways, so with other people, and thought, well, no, not a seeker. I almost felt if I admitted that, it was something very bad about me.
Yeah.
So I resisted, and then I think just very, very recently, even I would almost say just before we talked, "Uh, come on, I've been seeking, I think, since I was born, just about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I've been so uncomfortable in my very early years that I had to seek.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was, it took me to a creative endeavor to seek,
Yeah.
and which was acting, because I wanted desperately to be seen and loved
Yeah.
so much. It was like
Yeah.
an ache, and I had this wild temperament. Still do. Very passionate, very intense. Just let's use those words. I think they're true about me.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the realm of living a life, right?
Yeah.
And then through acting, I went into teaching, and that taught me a lot.
Were you teaching acting?
Yeah, I was teaching acting. I also started teaching a little bit visual arts and at mask making. And then, acting was not giving me enough meat.
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of commercial work, basically.
Okay.
So that was not satisfying me. And then I went into more the creative. So what I did in my teaching, career was facilitate creativity. But that only happened after I overcame my rigidity and
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
a lot of rigidity and also flights of fancy about creativity. So, the students loved that because we would all, just,
Beautiful. Yeah.
it was really nice. That was really nice, but not necessarily helpful to them. And eventually, what I learned through all the seeking about how do I communicate that you have to completely let go after structuring your work beautifully and be in this realm, which is, I think, in part what you're talking about,
Yeah.
you know? And that's where the sparks of creativity, invention, imagination,
Yeah.
rich flourish. And I kept kind of trying to coax them there. And when I did some solo work as an actor, I reached that because I could, I didn't have the restriction of dealing with other people who were trying to do a job while I was just trying to bounce off the walls.
Yeah.
So, but when was I not a seeker?
Yeah.
And then, of course, I went after that, after my career kind of got a little less important in acting. I continued teaching, and then I'd love, I'd love psychology with a deep passion. All
Yeah.
my life,
Yeah.
the mystery of life was, you know, just I had to understand.
Hmm.
And then now I forget where I was going with that, but
Psychology.
yeah, thank you, thank you. So I did a BA, but a BA, I can't explain you what this is, okay?
Yeah.
Get ready. A BA in transpersonal psychology.
Oh
And I
wow.
think, it's actually the seeking of what I think you are talking about.
Yeah.
It's first,
Yeah.
so the Course in Miracle was involved in that, and I was always a rebel. I never did lessons. I couldn't
Yeah.
start meditating because just too rebellious,
Yeah.
much of a rebel.
I
Uh,
conform for quite a while and then I rebel. I conform for quite a while. You know what I'm saying? Like I will do something for a long term.
yeah,
I'll be loyal and then I rebel. There's
uh,
always this rebelliousness here too. So I'm glad
you
that you're a
understand.
rebel. Yeah,
Yeah,
I understand. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And then after Course in Miracles, you did meditation. Were
I,
there any teachers along the way?
stop,
Oh, okay.
stop 1 moment, please.
Yeah.
I think we have company.
Yeah.
Excuse me a
No worries.
sec. Tony, honey. Oh, maybe he's gone.
Okay.
This is very funny, of course. Isn't this perfect? You hear
It's
what?
perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
Tony! Well, there we go.
There
Are
we
you
go.
interested in this?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Mhm. So I'm very grateful, Emerson. I'm very grateful to you.
Oh, thank
Uh,
you.
very, very, very. And I've observed you, um, I've observed you, what you bring to your one-on-ones. And I think everybody has a real chance to just to really be who they are and be at the point they are. And that includes me for sure. I
Yeah.
feel that,
Yeah. Somewhere along the way, um, in our appearance, we believe at a very early age that there's something wrong with us. And then we hoard all of this information to relieve that that feeling that there's something missing. That we're somehow separate from this world, that we're somewhat separate from life, that we're somewhat separate from whatever you might want to call it, God, the emptiness. And then we go through many stumbling blocks along the way, trying to negate or trying to understand. If we can't understand it, we try to negate. Right?
yes.
um, but what we're trying to dislodge is that belief itself. That belief, whatever it is, that belief that there's something wrong or something right, because that belief is that fork in the road that was never there before. This or that, duality. And instead of taking the middle path, or you know what I'm saying, there is this vibrancy, aliveness, like a character. And there's also this silence without the character. And we can't seem to comprehend that there is um, something that's complete. So we go into fractions, we go into measurements, we go into math, right?
Right.
And something that's an art, something
Uh-huh.
that's abstract, right?
Mhm.
Something that's neither a knowledge or the absence of knowledge. So we go back and forth, trying to find along the way to see if we're lost so that we can find, right? But the idea of being lost or the idea of finding is an anomaly of something that's not really separate. And even that's saying way too much. So along the way, what's your name again? I'm sorry. I read your
Louise.
email. What's that?
Yes.
Louise.
Louise. Yes.
Louise.
Mhm.
So Louise, along the way, who have you listened to?
Um, well, let's see. Listen to Moji.
Yeah.
Um, the most impactful was Paul Hederman.
Oh, I like Paul. Yeah.
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 And learned about selfing with him,
Yeah.
that selfing that. Um, so I appreciated him. At the same time, at times I would, just listen to him and I could almost, with hindsight, almost think that Paul, just quiet down a bit. If we just happened to have a bite together, and that happened only once, but even though he had done a full session before, he's so passionate that he was just going on, and more words were not necessarily getting, for him to do what he wanted to do. He didn't need all those words.
No, no. Yeah.
It's my evaluation. Okay, so,
Yeah. I listened to I did a one-on-one with someone in his 80s, and he said something really wise, that only teachers and words can only take you so far. And that's any teacher, any speaker, including me. Right. So, and the reason I've been doing this one-on-ones is that we let go of the words here. We see the words as completely irrelevant, right? We see the belief is our apparition, is our mirage. When we go closely at a belief system, is it really there? Like, what's between a belief and a non-belief? Go in between. Because a non-belief is a belief too, right? So if the non-belief is a belief too, then a belief creates an opposite.
Yes.
But is there an opposite if you go close? If you pull back, you're like, oh, yeah, yeah. But if you go close to the mirage, is it really there?
No.
No. Yeah, so it's between a belief and a non-belief. And if I go really directly, whether you are at this moment in the absence of belief. Or let me rephrase. If you cannot go to the past or the future, what do you believe?
Nothing.
You can't say it, right?
No,
Yeah.
can't say it. No.
And there's a peace when you can't say. There's a blankness. It's almost like it's beyond words or beyond the thought. Although that's just words and thoughts. But you know what I'm trying to get at, right? It's in a journey of seeking, you don't even have to negate the seeker, because seeker is just a word that's made up. It's almost like waking up from that mist of knowing, only to reveal something that cannot be labeled, something that cannot be named, something that cannot be known, something that cannot be comprehended. And that is you, without the idea of you. And the you vanishes because what's between a you and a no you?
Mm.
Isn't it peaceful? And there's nothing further than that. There's no past, there's no future. And it's so clear without the opposing words, without the limiting beliefs, without the influence of doubts, without the weight of knowing. It's so clear. But all we have is words. But without words, there's no we. And that's when I figured out earlier this year. I was doing this, I was getting invited. My subscriptions were getting higher. So I was, normally I would be getting invited all over the States, to do talks. And I started saying no to them because I'm like, what's the point of me, traveling like a rock star, and doing these tours. And then I'm on a pedestal. Then everybody believes that I'm saying, or they doubt it. It doesn't matter. Right. But people are curious about what I'm saying. So I'm like, why don't I step out of, because no matter what I do, I'm still on a pedestal. So what if I just keep on stepping off the pedestal every single time and meet you where we can't say anything, where you and I disappear? Because if there's no language, what's here? If you take away the language, what are you without language, Louise?
Well, I'm hearing in my head better. Like,
Yeah, authentic,
yeah,
free, right?
yeah.
Because we have, it's funny, right? We have a belief, that's the, when there's innocence and there's a belief, the belief that I'm better, or there's something missing with me. There's something wrong with me. And that singular belief, creates this interconnected, seeking, right? And then if it's not enough, then we believe other people's belief.
Yes.
I love Paul. He was just great. Yeah, but you're right. There's just too many words. There's just more to believe. It's almost like running away the opposite direction of clarity is listening to teachers and speakers like me. I'm not going to not include myself in it and then it takes I've been really humbled, by being a spiritual teacher. I had to step down. So this is my way of basically not making a big dramatic statement, of stepping down as a speaker as well.
I hear you.
You hear me, right?
I really hear what you're describing.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I don't know what to call myself, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. It's me to get off that bandwagon of touring around the world and spreading a message, or people looking up to me and people no, let's just be friends. Although I'm hard to get a hold now because I'm busier. So, but I mean it. You know what I'm saying? It's like when some people come visit me as friends now. Right? And then we go out, we go eat, and we dance sometimes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because that stigma, that weight of speaker teachers, codependency. Somebody always has the power. And the seeker, no wonder people want to negate the seeker, feels powerless because someone knows more than them. But it's not about knowing. So this is the conundrum. This is the how do I say it in a nice way?
Wow, the tripping spot.
This is the scam. Is that the more that you know, I can't say a better word, right? You're getting scammed into more knowing when it has nothing to do with knowing. Because when that person, the person usually, like, you'll hear a whole bunch of people have this realization, and the realization usually comes from a direct experience. Some people are walking and they see that, oh, there's no one walking here. I don't know what Paul's story is, but something similar to that, right? Or someone just went direct into quietness, and then they realize it. So the realization is that there's really nothing to realize when all the words vanish.
Mm-hmm.
Because the words will just propose more words. If you look up a word in a dictionary, guess what you'll come up with? More words.
Mm-hmm.
Guess when you think about non-duality, guess what you'll come up with? More thoughts.
True.
Yeah.
So true.
I speak a lot too, you know what I'm saying? But read between the lines of what that's what I'm trying to point out.
Yes.
It's where all these words are seemingly coming from. It's all the spaces in between.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. I hear you. I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Have you
Very.
been listening to the one-on-ones?
Yep.
You have been. Okay. And what has that done for you so far?
Well, I'm it's just invited me to the, to really get that words, they're like crutches. They can be useful,
Oh yeah.
but they're not, but where life is what, life is within oneself, where life is where it should be, is not there, and it's
Yeah.
in the space you talk about.
Yeah.
That space, that's where, life seems to just bring some ease, some well-being, some,
Yeah.
some humor, and, is for me, is really the moment when I very often trust when I don't have anything to say,
Yeah.
and then something pops and it's exactly what it should be. And I do spend a lot of my time there. So I don't need to think about what I need to say.
Yeah.
And I do live in that space you're
Yeah,
describing.
especially with acting, right? It's any art form basically, right? Is just it takes away the thinking. And
Mm-hmm.
I, like when I play the piano, when I dance, when I used to do when I was younger, I used to do poetry, and I completely forgot about it. And in my introduction videos before, I would just go into this stream of consciousness or clarity without thinking about it, and these words would come out, and I was like, oh wow, that's art. But there's an admission that art is just a representation of something,
Yes.
that is beyond the comprehension of the artist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
I'm
it's
just like I'm just like a paintbrush, basically.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not personal.
No.
It's
No.
not personal. And
Yeah.
I think for artists, it's actually quite liberating when you know that you have an invasion of something that makes you do these things. You know what I
So
mean?
true.
And
Yeah.
then when I was younger, you want to claim it, but you just can't claim
You
that.
just and the best artist gets out of the way,
Yeah, yeah, and it's
right?
more fun.
It's beautiful. I'm talking to this actress, and you know what? And she's going through so much, and she's auditioning, and I'm like, I said, well, I'm not really, and don't have any expertise in this, but the people that I talk to, this in between, the in between is that there's really no in between. I don't know if you get that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do. I
it's a
do.
trick, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because when you go
yeah.
into the in between, then there's no in between, and there's no you in the between, and there's no opposites.
Mhm.
So when there is this in betweenness or gap or whatever, then there's a directness. You're not caught up in delusions anymore. You're not caught up in thinking, right? So
Yes.
the authenticity of the character shines through. The sharpness of that paintbrush, that the clarity of that instrument, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And
And then you
then
see that when the spotlight comes on, when the actress becomes the stage. Yeah.
very well put. Yeah,
Yeah.
so well put.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all I'm saying, or trying to attempt to say, and because I can't say it, right? Is that there is something here that is just not the individual. the individual disappears and it becomes what you can't say. And the individual is no longer seeking for the relief or the negation of that individual, because there's no individual in the beginning, in the first place, because that individual is always what you can't say. It's just almost like this temporal spell that we get caught up on, that I am Louise, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But when we go to sleep, where's Louise?
Mm-hmm.
At this very moment, if you cannot go to the past or the future, where's Louise? If there's a reality to it, then you'll be able to say, well, I'm sure that I'm here, but that's just a belief. What are you without that belief?
That's the freedom.
Yeah.
The ease.
Right? It's so relaxing, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm getting a lot of, characters that are there, some people that have done 50 years of seeking. The latest videos that I'm about to release is like a couple of 50 years of seeking.
Yes.
And then there's brand new kids that are in their 20s.
Yes.
Have you seen it?
I think it's great.
I think it's great too. I jokingly said, I'm going to punch you. What? You're 20 years old? Because I'm 53, right? But you know what? And the story sometimes of those kids of, wow, like they listen to some of this non-duality, some of them dissociate, some of them depersonalize, some of them do this and that. And I guess it's just a part of the game. But it's good to flash them with clarity so that they can get off of their delusions and the personalization. They can come back into the authenticity. Ultimately, I'm saying, the way that I see this is that the more that this unfolds, the more authentic the character becomes. And we're just
That
like
again, the
little
more.
authentic.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's
Yes.
kind of like
Yes.
how the actress, the more the actress gives, the more authenticity. They're not the individual anymore, and they're not
Mm-hmm.
even the role that they're playing. They transcend both.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
When there's a performance that just kind of like, oh my goodness, what is happening here, right? And I'm
Yeah.
sure you've seen it, and
Oh,
you've
yes.
done that too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. I've witnessed it in students, and sometimes they would have a phenomenal moment, and then they would scare themselves back to reality.
Yeah.
What just happened?
And that's what they call an enlightened performance. You know what I'm saying? That usually breaks through, right?
Yes.
And then some
Yes.
people are just really good at honing at that, if you notice it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite brilliant, right? It's I've seen plays, and I have a friend, a superstar that befriended me, and she's considered one of the greatest thespians in our country, in the Philippines. She's got the national artist, and I met her when she was suffering, and but even through that suffering, the moment that the spotlight comes on, she's transformed into whatever character she's playing. And I was just like, wow. And I've seen it over and over again, right? And it's just phenomenal.
Yes. Yes.
It's phenomenal.
Yes. Acting is good that way because, when you play characters and you get into them, then you realize, well,
That
those are fake. So am
your
I.
character is also a play, saying
Yeah,
it's
right. Yeah,
there's a
exactly.
thin line, right, between the
Yes.
character and your character, um, because they're all made up.
Right.
And the most beautiful actors, and like, are the ones that can almost um play themselves without playing themselves. I don't know if that makes sense, right?
Yes, it
So
does make sense. It
yeah,
does. It does. Yes.
yeah, and it's just brilliant.
Yes, and I believe I have a belief. Okay, here's a belief
That's
that
okay.
it gives the audience a break when somebody does that because they join them.
Oh
In,
yeah, yeah, I see that too. Yeah, I was watching a horror show last night. It's called The Substance, with Demi Moore. It's a horrific show, but the acting is brilliant. It's about an aging actress that was about to be replaced, so she got into this kind of like a like a an instant, almost kind of like transformation to make her look young. But what happens is that when she becomes basically she becomes this younger version of herself, and then the older body is in this bathroom floor, but the substance, it's called that you're one, you're not separate. So when a person got caught up with the youth and everything, then the older person suffered.
Yes.
And and that's what's happening in cinema, I guess, and that there's this obsession to be young, an obsession to hold on to the past, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it becomes a monstrous obsession, and that's what the movie was about, this monstrosity of an obsession to look
Mm.
young. Yeah, beautiful.
Mm. Good to bring that to light.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love being old.
me too, actually. I say all the time, I'm 53.
I think this is the best time now, I guess, huh?
It
Yeah,
is.
good. This is it, right?
It's always this moment, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I never really go old or never go young,
Oh,
because
like
that's just
that.
a thought. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But in the narrative, I used to hide my age, right? Because I felt like, like, oh, I have not accomplished so much. I'm already 40 or 30. And yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I
I
get you.
can't wait to be 80. That's just another story.
You'll have to.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was
I'll
just
get there before you.
what's that?
I'll get there before you.
That's right. Yeah.
Can't beat me at that one.
No. No, but I just see um it's like the sunset is beautiful. Yeah. I enjoy the sunrise and the sunset.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's perspective, right? So some people see that everything's dimming down, but it's beautiful when it's all dimming down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah. And
yes.
the colors and,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
the combination of the light and the dark, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's like the opposites kissing each other.
Ah, that's so
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah.
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 Ah, that's so lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I
And
love
then the opposites become lovers, and then all of a sudden it
it.
becomes one and
Mm.
none. Yeah.
Mhm, 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 mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I set my schedule now for the sunrise and the that, I guess that's my practice. If you people want to ask if there's a practice to this,
mhm,
I just look at everything without any words, and I love the solitude.
mhm, mhm,
I love seeing birth and death, although they're both illusory, and it repeats over and over again. If you see it,
mhm,
there's an
mhm.
eternalness into it, right?
Oh, mm.
So, what's your best character that you've portrayed, Louise? Let's talk
Well,
about you. I like acting. Yeah.
yeah. Let me see. No, I'm laughing, because as a very young kid, I went to the theater and I saw this production of Joan of Arc, and I always wanted to play Joan of Arc
Oh yeah,
all my
that
life.
would be a great media role, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's the hero, and it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
when
Yeah.
he goes
Yeah.
to battle and all that stuff. It's perfect. It was perfect for my temperament. But I've played. I played a very actually a woman who left the convent.
Oh.
Yeah, she was a nun. She left the convent. She took a train from Quebec City to Montreal, and she met on that train a man that she thought was Jesus Christ.
Oh wow.
And she spent the night with him, and then they had a child. And then she's very, of course, she's very timid, but at the end she's saying, that child will revolutionize.
Hmm.
He will be, and so it's basically, the Quebec story of let's have a revolution. right? Because in a way, it was, I never thought of it this way. I guess, just telling you the story in such a quick way, I'm just getting more of the essence than I ever did.
Yeah.
And that's, isn't that exciting about acting? You know, that there's always something new to discover. So that was an important role for me because I really could go into my repressed, oppressed
Yeah.
part that I knew so
Oh, yeah.
well. And so I could kind of play there. And Also because it was a monologue, I could just have the freedom of just flying wherever it would take me.
Yeah.
So I think, that's where I understood a certain type of freedom in creativity. And then,
Beautiful.
yeah, made sure I had it in my life. Not all the time, I failed at having it in my life many, many times, but it was a constant. I could go back to it and I would get some of that relief. I would spend hours sanding a mask, and just be very content,
Beautiful.
that simple action. So it's, so then, and there was another role about a woman who recalled the story of when she was a kid. When she was
Mm.
a kid, she was one of few kids, and the parents were living in a very far away place. They had to go to the hospital. The mother was going to give birth, so so she was left there as an 11, 12-year
Yeah.
old, and that's the night the cow decided to give birth to a calf, and that little girl, just with all her strength, pulled this calf, who dumbly showed up legs first, and her struggle with that, and how she basically gave birth to this young calf by some incredible
Oh, wow.
superhuman strength, and then went and bathed in the lake with the moon there, just reflecting on her, and how then she describes the day the calf is killed for meat. And she talks about the moment she saw the light in the calf's eye, and the moment she saw the light disappear in the eye of the calf.
Wow.
So, that was such a, and again, Emerson, I feel I know this play better. And, if you have a good play, you can revisit it all the time. You're
Oh,
always
yeah. Yeah.
immediately just,
Yeah.
the juices are going, you just feel in that place you're describing where you're open to any
Yeah.
decision you can make about the character, and
Yeah.
just in that place of permission and expression that
Yeah.
is not personal again,
Yeah.
but exquisite and
It is. Yeah.
enthralling.
Beautiful. Well, I didn't know I was an actor, but about 8 years ago, something clicked and I was like, oh my goodness, I've been playing a thought called Emerson. And it was just the best acting ever because it felt so real and authentic. And
Yeah,
and I was like, wow. Right. Like what it's beyond the words, right? Because it was just so I really believed I was that. And I was so convinced that that's who I was, right?
I
And right
know.
now there's this character, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, but there's no more, it's not in a belief or a non-belief anymore. It's the same as
Mm-hmm.
it's a narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's somehow, you know what, it's at peace now. It's
Mm-hmm.
retired. It retired from playing those dramatic,
Mm.
those dramatic and what do you call those roles? Tragedy. It was a
Tragedy. Yeah.
tragic comedy because from the perspective of my brothers and my sister, they're like, "You're so funny," right? It's like,
Right. Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And then I'll tell them about the dramatic stories of like, I was, dragged to the mud. I was crying all the time, and and then sometimes, you know what, I would be crying so much that I would look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, just like everybody does when they're crying, they want to look at themselves in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah. What's going on? Who am I? How do I
Yeah.
look? Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you don't even know who's crying,
Yeah. 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 I
especially
think
those sobbing cries. I don't know.
yes. Yes.
And
Yeah.
and then I used to hide all of this. I could never cry in public because first I was, a spiritual teacher, And then secondly, I was, well, I guess first because I was trained not to cry, but I
Mm-hmm.
love to cry. Like even
Mm-hmm.
last night watching that horror movie, it was so horrific at the end. I
Mm-hmm.
was crying, I was
Mm.
crying at this woman that just wanted to be loved,
Yes.
but to go all kinds of troubles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And wanting to feel youthful and loved and does not want to be rejected. Like, for example, you get into an industry that accepts you and applauds you, but that's also the same one that will reject you
Oh,
when you
yes.
get older or whatever seems to happen.
Whenever they get a chance. I mean, unfortunately, I think that's the pendulum, right, of that business. It's just a pendulum.
It
Somebody
is, yeah,
that,
it is.
that's to be expected, but I think it's a blow each time the pendulum goes in your face. You go,
And then in this business of non-duality and spiritual teacher, people
Mhm.
are people have told me this. They're like, "Oh, you're too young to be a spiritual teacher." I'm like, "I'm 53." The dilemma now is like, "Oh, you look too young and you're too funky. You wear red glasses because there's authenticity, right?" It's
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a role, a limited role,
it
right?
is a limited role.
Limited role. Just you have to squeeze yourself in there like in a corset,
That's
and
right.
what's
And
most
I did buy into it. I was beginning
yeah.
more. One time I looked at my closet, it was like white and beige. I was like, "What the hell?"
Yeah,
Because it's supposed to expand your aura. I'm saying your auric.
I'd forgotten about the aura.
That's
I'd forgotten.
me too,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
watching this documentary called Breath of Fire, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, I went through that too." So it's almost like the character Emerson had many seasons. It kept on getting renewed over and over and
Mm,
again,
mm,
right?
mm.
Even when it got canceled, it was kind of like that. When you have a series that's really good in the beginning,
Right.
and but you don't know that it's a tragedy, and at the end becomes really boring because you're like, "Oh, when is he going to grow up?" It's like
Yes, yes, yes,
smart
yes.
enough, Emerson, that kind of thing, right? And all of a sudden, it just got canceled out of nowhere.
Right.
Emerson got canceled, and I was like, "Oh,"
Mm, mm,
and I was just stunned. I was just like, "Okay,
mm, mm,
what a performance! What the hell?"
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I think it's important to know that not only am I performing, but others are too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's
And
kind
then
of
not you have multiple roles too because you're
true,
different to your father, you're different
right?
to your
Yeah,
friends, you're different as a spiritual teacher,
yeah, yeah, yeah. You have a
and
repertoire.
yes, that's right. Yeah. You're a versatile actor,
You're versatile. Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But in that stage, right? When that light comes on, when there is, in the absence of thoughts,
Mm,
it's in between thoughts and the absence of thoughts, there's this transcendence,
mhm. Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
And I've been at that place, as a DJ, right? when
Mm.
when the next DJ is tapping me, goes, "Okay, you know what?" Goes, how many more songs? I'm like, "Has it been 2 hours already?"
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. That's
Or when
so.
I would go dancing, and
Mm.
and all of a sudden you hear the last track of the DJ, and you're like, "Oh my goodness, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. What the hell?"
That's so great.
Yeah.
Those are sweet, sweet moments.
Yeah.
It's almost like they nourish you retroactively, you get
Yeah.
like a dump of pleasure.
Because we're so caught up in these thoughts, right? In the merry-go-round. And then
Yeah,
we escape into the void.
yeah,
We
yeah,
hide in the abyss, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And then we get replenished, as you say, right? Into this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's so nice. I'm
So how are
so
you
glad.
feeling now?
Oh, I'm very well. I'm very well. I'm
Good.
content and
Yeah. So this is just contentment, because if there's no next, there's no past,
mhm,
there's no belief, there's no thoughts. Although I'm just saying those words, in the absence of the imaginary,
mhm,
there's a naked reality here that's so intimate.
mhm.
It's timeless, right? I'm saying way too much, but it's
No,
direct.
it's okay. I know what we're circling,
Yeah.
you know, with the words, we're
Yeah.
using words to circle, like the
Yeah.
words are like, what are those fish that have that thing? Ta 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 ta
Yeah.
ta
Yeah.
ta. The words are
Shark.
trying to get to, yeah, sharks, yeah.
Sharks. Yeah.
Like they're trying to,
Where are you? You're in Toronto, right?
I live in Toronto.
Oh,
Yes, yes,
wow.
and you're close,
I'm
right?
close. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Great. That's
Yeah.
great. I'd love
Yeah.
to see you sometime more.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We
That's
can go
wonderful.
for coffee, tea,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. We can go
Cooking.
dancing if you're into dancing.
I'm into dancing.
Good. Or eating if you like you're into
Uh,
eating.
it's like, all of the above. Whoops, I'm disappearing. All of the above.
Yeah.
I'm willing to,
How long have you listened to the one-on-ones?
um, I would say 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's fascinating, right?
yeah, yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I've
well,
known Paul for quite a while. And then I
mhm.
actually hosted Paul at one time too.
Did you,
Yeah, yeah.
huh? Oh.
When we
What
met,
city?
it was kind of awkward,
Yeah,
right? In the
yeah,
beginning, but we clicked eventually. It was kind of funny.
yeah,
I did the nothing media, right? So
yeah.
yeah, he's a lovely guy. Yeah.
I really think he's an absolutely gem. I just
Yeah.
care about him so much. We're
Yeah.
not in touch. We haven't been in touch for a while, but he would come to Toronto once in a while, and then I'd make sure to hang out, and be there. Um, yeah, he's just a gem. He's just
Who else have you listened to? Probably
um,
many, right?
and
Because you were
no, I did no, I didn't. Oh no, I did my share. I did my
you did
share.
your share. Okay.
I did my share. Um, you know what I did? I did, believe it or not, after I did that BA in transpersonal, I felt, well, what am I going to do now? And then I joined, because of a neighbor, I joined a Gurdjieff group, and that was a disaster for me.
Gurjit?
Gurdjieff, yeah.
Oh, Gurjit. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a disaster for me. The rebel really came out.
Yeah.
After 2 years, I left. You wouldn't believe the behavior I had when I left. I was so angry on a deep, deep level about, the resistance I felt. The, what I felt was being held back, so that was my
Yeah.
own story, it's my
Yeah.
story. I really know that with hindsight, but in the moment with the hierarchy, just,
Oh,
I
me
just,
too with the hierarchy. Oh my
oh,
goodness.
you
It's
know,
like, yeah.
yeah. Just very personal to me, hierarchy and authority. I get like a tigress, and I'm generally very mild.
Yeah.
I just want to get along,
Yeah. I
So,
get really blunt when it comes to, I'm usually, very yeah, very mild, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I don't really get angry, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
But when somebody has gone through some suffering because of a teacher or a speaker, right? There's almost because I've been there, there's almost like um a not really naughty, but more cheeky way. I'll point it out, without any fear. The rebel comes out and
yeah.
just call it out, right? Because it's um it's just a play, right? But there's some bad acting happening. Yeah.
The acting teachers, it's very bad.
And then
It's
they're just mimicking another actor, you know what I'm saying? And it's just,
oof,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And
it's
they take
very
it so
bad.
seriously.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
and yeah,
And it causes
yeah,
a lot of suffering, in the,
yes,
yeah,
yes, yes. Get lost for a while, right? Because after that kind of experience, creatively, you feel fragile. You don't feel that you can get back to the strength of your creativity or that place we're talking about,
yeah,
basically. To me,
yeah,
there's a synonym, with that place where there's no words and that creative. That's the same.
yeah,
So before you can get back to that, you're just bouncing in your mind and your
yeah.
feelings in your body. You're just not, just
Yeah, yeah.
so
I get
off,
what you're saying. Yeah.
so off,
You're
so
off. Yeah, yeah, you're off. Yeah.
off.
And then that's what I was feeling was really off, for quite a while when I'm like, well, how come when I'm, I've noticed it that in a meeting room on a sangha or, satsang or meetings, Zoom meetings, it's the same people coming over and over again. And their suffering is you can see it on their faces.
Mhm.
Am I an agent of suffering or am I an agent of peace? Yeah.
Do no harm.
Yeah. And that's what it is, right?
Mm. I want to get back to something. You know, when you were saying like about the authority, because we're talking about authority, about not wanting to get on a pedestal because, of
Yeah.
course, you'll be toppled
Oh
sooner or
yeah,
later anyway, right? I mean,
yeah. Yeah.
you will be toppled. So please, so somebody gets on the pedestal, and then you need to help me with my thoughts. Where was I
Do it.
going?
The
Where was I
pedestal,
going?
it will get toppled.
Yeah.
If you're in a
Okay.
hierarchy, basically, yeah.
Right. So in there's something that happened when I was teaching that felt so honored by, which was putting all the actors, student or more advanced, in a circle. And then I would just watch authority move like ping
Yeah.
pong.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I could literally like almost, apart from keeping a certain being there as the authority, but knowing I wasn't,
Yeah.
I could just let this authority, which it's always present in a way, and it would just go different places
Oh
in
yeah,
the
yeah.
room. And
Yeah.
it would be so beneficiary because it would equalize everyone in an interesting way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
When I first did my first after, I don't know if you heard my story. I was a spiritual teacher before and I stepped down.
Right.
And then I became a speaker, an adult speaker. And it was just the same thing. I came into a room and there was this gigantic chair, you know what I'm saying? That with flowers around it. And I got out, I'm like, okay, no, 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 not again. It's like a nightmare. So I just took out the flowers and gave it to the people, and they just sat with everybody and just normalize things because it's even if you repackage it, even if you became called a speaker, and if you are still answering Q&As, you're still a part of the problem because there's someone that knows and there's a codependency, right? So I still do the odd, meetings in Zoom, but I changed the format into a one-on-one now. So
Mm.
everybody that comes, it's still a one-on-one, right?
Mm.
So there's no one, positioning as they know something that you can't know, because that's just another, and that's what I call bad acting.
Um, bad acting.
they're
Bad act-
they're caught up in that spotlight. You know what I'm saying?
Sometimes,
External spotlight. Yeah.
yeah, you know what? Sometimes I think it's like being an older sister, you almost you're there and you have somehow a little bit, you know life a little bit more, just pure time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Pure time. You know more than the little siblings, and maybe you even found a way to get a little much more comfortable in life.
Yeah.
Then you feel the suffering, and then you
Yeah.
think you can do something about it.
Yeah.
And that's where it get because there's little that can be done about other people's suffering.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
and inviting them to a place where it's already there, it's within
Yeah.
us, right?
Yeah.
Where we do meet and we are in that equality that you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's where
We
we want to be,
we both
not,
disappear. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
in our disappearances, there's this unicity.
yeah.
We don't have to carry power or give power or to need power, right? We both, it's all powerlessness. And in between power and the powerless, there is something that is equanimous, something that is beyond comprehension. And it's peaceful because there's nothing to comprehend. It's not a lesson. It's not something to lose or attain. It's not a negation or an attainment. I don't even talk about the self anymore.
I didn't hear what you said this last
I
thing.
said I don't even talk about the self anymore
Mm.
or the me anymore. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Everybody's still stuck in that, no me, whatever. And it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't understand how to be no me. Still have to do the dishes. So I need my me to do the dishes, you know. I mean, not for I'm, humble.
Yeah. Well, I always say this: if you meet the know me, push them. See if they if they react. If they don't react, then they're, you know what? Follow that teacher. You know what I'm saying? The speaker. But yeah, it's well, it's so beautiful to meet you, Louise. I'm gonna stop this recording. So thank you very much.